yeah, Brett, you gotta.
Just go back and forth just a little bit. Yeah. So the only thing with these that you got to be careful about is when we naturally speak, we turn our heads.
Yeah, we talk like that, so I should talk like this. Got it.
Just be conscious of it.
Okay. Just go out there and scream at them, Brett. Or does that work? Sorry. What's that? Yeah, I was just going to ask him about where the volume is, but it's probably right here where I can see it. Yeah, it's camera. I don't know where he did the volume. How's that? That go down? Yeah? Okay. Can everybody hear me? Good? Just right? Doesn't feel like I'm screaming at you yet? Yeah, I'm good whenever you want to. Good afternoon. Thanks, Brett. Thank you. All right, let's go. How's everybody doing? They got conference fatigue yet, or are we doing okay? Outstanding. One more. Great. I've been here with you guys since Thursday as well. I think it's been a wonderful opportunity to get back together, as you know, and take some practice again to be actually out with people all day long, right? So I'm a little nervous because I haven't spoken for a couple years, so bear with me as I warm up. And secondly, a little nervous because I always want to make sure I bring value to the discussion. So this isn't about me telling you what to do. This is about me sharing what I know, but there's lots of knowledge in this room as well, too. So part of my job today is to facilitate and create those discussions, and have some knowledge coming out. A little background, just it'll help with the perspective as I keep being an advocate for planning and strategy. I've had the privilege of having some pretty neat careers in my life, and the first one was with the Calgary Stampede. I had the privilege of working with them for 33 years. And as a senior leader, I got to oversee agriculture, Western events, rodeo chuck wagons, and 2 ranches. But it was also it was complex because we were in a city environment. We wanted to educate, we wanted to be relevant to urban people, but we also wanted to be realistic and authentic to all the competitions. So the way we worked through that was through good planning and good strategizing and making sure we knew what our narrative was, what our value propositions were, and our impacts. So from there, when I retired, the industry called, the Fairs and Exhibition Group industry called and said, hey, can you come chat with us and our board? We're thinking about strategy. We're having a hard time finding that way to discuss things. So for 4 years, I worked with national associations, provincial associations, regional, and some grassroots ag societies. And that was a wonderful experience for 4 years. And then somebody came knocking on my door. And it was a land trust called Western Sky Land Trust. And it's a small not-for-profit organization. And what we do is we work with farmers and ranchers in southern Alberta. And we work with them for their aspirations to put easements on land so those lands will never change for farming and ranching in perpetuity. So this is what I get to do now. And this is a picture of the Rosebud River Valley as an example. And working with these landowners, this picture will be like this for thousands and thousands of years. It's pretty cool stuff. Why did I bring all that up? Because even though we're a not-for-profit, small little organization, me and another person and a few contractors, we still need a strategy. We need a plan. So it doesn't matter if you're big, medium, or small, you still need a strategic plan of some sort. And a strategic plan doesn't have to be this cumbersome 20-page document. Today I'm going to encourage you just to start with 1 or 2 pages. So today is pretty bare bones, but you'll understand the philosophy behind it. Any questions so far? Doing good? Okay. So today I'd like to sort of tackle it like this for the next 90 minutes. We can talk a little bit about key stakeholders in rural Alberta. I want to talk about mission, vision, and embracing new times. And you guys know what that means. We're in new times. Strategic planning, the catalyst, the one that creates your narrative, the one that gives you purpose, consensus, and drives you somewhere. And we'll talk about the framework and the architecture of that a bit. At the end of it, I will have hoped to add to your vocabulary new language around the narrative and the values and impacts of ag societies, your ag society, to the communities that you serve. But you will find those words yourself today, okay? So outcomes for today. I really look at a strategic plan as a consensus-building visionary document for a board that actually creates the script and the narrative for the organization as they work with key stakeholders. I learned from sitting with the Lloydminster folks last night, as I listened in, they brought up some things around limitations, like how do we get started again? And I think they said, we're out of practice. We haven't done this for a while. So you have to be careful as we start to think about strategic planning, bringing your businesses back online. You have to start figuring out your limitations. And each one will be different between each ag society. Also keep in the back of your mind, you want to find some wins. If you're good at certain things as an ag society, they're kind of simple, and they're going to create some quick wins for you in the next year or so. Think about that, right? You might not be able to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Think about those wins. And when you have those wins, you'll start building confidence with yourselves as a board, your immediate stakeholders, your volunteers, and your sponsors. So keep that in mind. Limitations, wins, building confidence, building momentum. And if you like words that you hear today, not just mine, if you hear words from other people that you like, write them down because they're going to become part of your narrative in your strat plan. So, for a moment, I always like to start with this. As a leader, so I don't want you to be thinking about board, operations, got to figure out the rodeo. I want you to think about it as a leader of an organization with your peers. Answer this question. Think about it. As the leader of the organization or the leadership group, what's the most important thing that you need to do? Give me some ideas. What comes to mind? Succession planning, that's a good one, yeah. Analyzing? Analyzing what? Yeah. Yeah. Delegate? Who said that? Sorry, there you go. Delegation. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, what's sustainability mean to you? Right. There's lots of different views on sustainability, none of them wrong, but it means different things to different people. A lot of things you, sorry? Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a theme that I've heard throughout about new ideas is being shut down or how do we really learn to listen?
Right. So all the things we were just chatting about there, if you want, you can bring that into your strat plan. Okay? And I'll show you how to do that. The thing to remember as the leaders of your organization, when I've been working with groups, we quickly get into an idea and then, what's your name? Byron. He says, nah, that's a bad idea. That'll never work. It's back to the listening skills, right? When you start doing strategic planning as a board, everything's on the table. There's a way I'll show you later of figuring out how to decipher that and distill it down into priorities for yourself. But the opening part of any process is about listening and contributing, okay? Absolutely. So as a board, you're charged with vision first, and then you have to figure out the management plan, the structure, and then you have to coach it. You have to drive it out. And that's why a strat plan, can you imagine if Fred and I are on the board, and Fred's got one script that he made up, and I made up another one, and then I approached you to volunteer? It's pretty confusing, right? If your board's not on the same script, where we're going and what we're doing. That's right.
But if you look hard, you can kind of see where the need is, and you can coach
Mm-hmm.
people then to start to see.
That's right. Yeah, it's a very different world now, right? Like, how many people listened to Ian Hill yesterday? He said it 3 or 4 times. The idea of a hierarchy's gone, right? Our kids work in these sort of moments of just grabbing information all over the place, and that's the new world. I don't like it as much as I like the old world because you knew how it was all structured. But it's a lot more fluid now. So this is my thank you to you and appreciation, because I love rural Alberta, and I want to say to you, thank you. I'm glad there's people like you out there taking care of things through some very challenging times. You've had to work through family and community planning, scenario planning for your ag society during trying times. You've tried to stay connected with your volunteers and partners. Some have stayed close, some have not. You think about your capacity to deliver. You don't know when you can deliver, when you get to start. Like, there's been a lot of things going on out there. You think about your operating reserve, your cash flow. Like, it's all there. It's all been percolating in the background. Critical issues, what are they? Are they on the list? Has the board talked about them? Programming performance. Will the programs that served us well before be the right programs for the future, or a combination of net and traditional? Infrastructure. You guys have been sitting on infrastructure for 2 years, trying to take care of it. What else has been going on out there that's just been overwhelming like crazy for you? Yeah, but this is all about COVID, right? And I think one of the biggest things I've been thinking about the last couple of days is when you went to go planning, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a perfect world before. You had all this historical data to do your planning. You don't have that anymore. Will they come back? What does the sponsor want to do? What's the attitude of the volunteers when they're coming back? Are they coming back? Like, you've lost the history, right? And so that makes it a little bit more trickier. So, environmental scanning. This is one of the places you start as a board together to actually start building just warming up. And environmental scanning is interesting because it's not about what's going on within your ag society, it's what's going on around there. So this gentleman here said about what's going on around you in the community. So you bring your board together and they start to share what they're seeing is on the forefront of issues or opportunities. I love using this map. I don't know why. I built it for one of the ag societies. And it's a picture of central Alberta, and bottom right is Stettler, and top left is Winfield, and Ponoka's in the middle, and Wetaskiwin. But this is just ag societies, and I don't think I got them all, but it just shows a really busy landscape of ag societies. Not bad, but it's busy. And if you listen to some speakers yesterday, they also said, well, and layer that on top of hockey arenas, curling rinks, gymnastics, book clubs, Netflix, trips to Mexico. It's a busy world. And if you haven't thought about you're in competition, you might want to start thinking about that, because it's a market out there and your ag society is in competition. And the products you produce, the things you do, those great value impacts for the organization, they're your differentiation point, but you are in competition. And so I show this map just as a reinforcement, it's complex. This isn't about ag society versus ag society. Things we talk about when we talk about the scan: social impacts, economic impacts, competition we just talked about, capacity, and regulatory. One client I was working with said, we're going through the exercise, said, I think in 5 years they're going to build a new airport and it's going to have an international connection. We should pay attention to that as an ag society, because that's going to bring a different level of guests to the city. So they started thinking about that in the context of their strat plan. If you are not in tune with what's going around you with the city, or the MD, or the village, or infrastructure, you might want to start keeping an eye on it, because they may impact how your ag society functions in the future. So, together, I'll be your scribe. What are things that you think you can give examples from your ag society, but what are the things that you should be thinking about, or that are on your radar, that's an environmental scan that may affect you, that's significant in the next 3, 5, 7 years? Just give me some examples. Sorry? No, this isn't environmental like environment. This is just, it's a scan in general. Go ahead. Yeah. And so where are you? In Beaumont. So there's a great example. Everybody knows where Beaumont is. That city's coming fast, so they're having to think about development. Right? City. What else? Yeah. Right. Correct. And if you're not paying it, I don't have the answer to that, nor should I. But if you say that that's a priority, you should start thinking about that in your strategy, because you know that this is your volunteer thing is starting to go like this, right? What does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. What else is going on out there? Yeah, expand on that for me. Well, I know what you mean, but I was just... Diversity? Good. And to add to that, at the end of today, you may look at that discussion because you need a narrative to get that working for you. So you can't go into you can't have this listed as a goal, objective, or a tactic if you don't have your narrative sorted out. Because they'll say, what do you want me to do? I don't care how long you've been around for. What do you want me to do? What's the value proposition for you? So that's why the strat plan, it's a driver for the script, the narrative that you use with your key stakeholders, and the board uses it all together on the same page.
New opportunities like in our community to offer farmers market in our community.
Yeah. Are you excited about that?
I am.
Good. Awesome. New is good. Making money is good. You're a business. Okay? Mission margin. You don't get to mission sometimes if you don't have margin. Right? Anything else? Just for examples? Yeah, sorry.
Restrictions, barriers to entry. So sometimes because new information is so readily available, there's government bodies that changes in the tax code and times for yourself to operate within as quickly as before. Specifically when you're trying to deal with and have to deal with the county on new things and stuff.
Yeah, there seems to be more rules to do the same things they used to do, right? You got to pay attention to that because it'll only get harder and harder, right? Because there's compliance, regulatory. It's a good one. That's why I put it down there. It gets harder and harder sometimes to do the business that we need to do. This is just an example. If you're sitting down with your board and if you had a facilitator or if you're president or you have somebody from the business community, this is where you start. This is where you start to warm up together. What's going on around us that we need to pay attention to. Okay? Yeah, tell me about that. Right. What's trending? What's going on in your community? What's the demographics? What's the market need to look like now, right? Good. That's an environmental scan exercise. I'm giving you a taste of what an environmental scan would, and this is where you would start in a process. You don't go start talking about the hockey arena and the roof. I'll say it now. Your hockey arena or your facility might be a tool. It's not a goal. So we'll get into vision a bit, but I'm going to start to say now, your infrastructure, it might be the tool, the tactic to get you where you're going. So I encourage you to think about that because a lot of times when someone says, tell you about your exercise, we start with the infrastructure. I'm going to help you with some new language today, if you like it. Okay, next part of the process. Everybody heard of SWOT? Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I didn't make this stuff up. It's on the internet. It's Strategic Planning 101. Lots of resources there. You have access to this 24/7. But this is a really good exercise for a board to internalize themselves and say, what are our strengths? And not debate them. If Fred says our strength is this, it goes up on the board. And if Max says one of our weaknesses is this, no debate. We're putting information up on the board. Okay, because we're all equals and we got to listen. Okay?
Not that, also, if you start knocking one idea down, someone else who might have said something, suddenly goes, oh.
Exactly. See, people climb up. So that's a job of a leader or the facilitator, whoever's doing it work for you, to keep that openness, right? To stay in charge, and everybody's an equal participant. So internally, you do strengths and weaknesses. It's interesting sometimes that one member of the board will think of it as a strength, and another board member will think of it as a weakness. And that's okay. Leave them on both lists. I'll give you an example. I'll try to give you an example. What's your name? Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Debbie says, you know what? I think one of our strengths is we got a 3-year runway on cash. We're in good shape financially. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. Strength. What's your name? Cortland says, I don't know about that. When we get a bank account full of money, we get kind of lazy. We don't pursue new ideas. We don't figure out new opportunities. We don't look for partnerships. So he might think it's a weakness. Nobody's wrong or right. It's just now you're talking, right? Strengths, weaknesses internally. Externally, talk about the airport. Is it an opportunity or is it a threat? Are they going to take the highway and go around town? Opportunity or threat? They're going to build a new multiplex library, swimming pool, high school on the other side of town. Opportunity or threat? We start listing these things. But if you're open-minded, you might think about, I would encourage you to think about these things that are going around you as being ahead of them, knowing what's going on, and thinking about them as opportunities, not threats. Okay? This is a great exercise. And if you're sitting down with a board of 10 or 12 or whatever, probably takes you 2 hours to get through this. So environmental scans, an hour, this. So there you go. There's a morning. You're just getting warmed up. Don't think you can do all this in an hour. And please don't think you can fit it into a board meeting, right? Because I know you're all thinking, how am I going to get, so let me add. This is all net new. If you're not there or you haven't revisited your plan, this is on top of your normal board operations work. You have to find net new time as a leadership group to actually work on your future. And I think when you find that time, it's extremely rewarding because you're getting to actually get back to why you started to volunteer. You wanted to create the best, highest common good for the organization in your community. And the only way to do that is take your 12 or 10 people, lock them up, and talk about something you care so much about. I don't know why I keep using this slide, but it just sticks. But maybe I'm a planner, a strategist, and an implementer. It's one of my most favorite slides, and I found it 15 years ago. Abe Lincoln says, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. Want me to chop that tree down? You give me 6 hours, I'm going to sharpen the axe for 4. What does that mean to you guys? Just this preparation, right? Why is that?
Because it gives you a strategy to go ahead and get to things
Mm-hmm.
without just being
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word these days, eh? Proactive, right? So this is about taking the time to do exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, sitting down and focusing as leaders on the future of where you want the organization to go and not having to worry about the day-to-day operations, which are still important.
So where, by doing that, and whether it's over exercise to sharpen the axe, but is it something then that allows, because I know myself, and I'll fully admit I'm headstrong and I like things just to get done, so I jump in and do them.
Mhm.
But is it about taking that step back and say, okay, let's prepare as a whole,
That's right.
and then move forward as that group, instead of trying to move forward with one idea that eliminates the connectivity amongst your group, whether it's your board or whoever it is, or at least that, then you're all kind of following the same vision of what you're trying to do.
Exactly. Bang. You got it. A lot of you got to where you're at because you were a doer and they just needed more doers. And then they needed people to worry about it at a higher level, so then you started worrying about a higher level. This is about, everything today is about working together as a leadership group on the future of the organization, not running the organization. You guys know how to do that. That's table stakes. You got to do it. But this, building consensus and having the time to talk about the future of the organization, that's what this is about. That's what I was going to joke about that, saying, I said, there's probably some farmer who says, screw this guy. I'll just go get my chainsaw and get it over with. Next. Yeah. But that's the same farmer, and I say this with I say this with love. That's the same farmer that probably thinks that strat planning is a really stupid idea, right? And I say that caringly. I don't say that derogatory, but you're right. I was thinking about the same thing. I was thinking, I think some guys just want to grab a chainsaw and take care of it. So think about that. I think it's really cool. Don't run out the door and run back to your ag society and say, and don't say strategy, strategizing, strategic planning, this Max guy, you should see we got to get going, we're behind. Because that might be their experience. Because they've never had the ability to take the time to learn about it. They might have tried it and it just failed. It was maybe forced down their throat at work. But sometimes when you run back and just blurt it out, this is what could be going on inside their mind. And if you want to start shutting things down right away, it'd be about running back to your organization. There's a really systematic approach as you as a leader need to actually make sure you understand the process and how it might work, and then start to actually coach the need to take on something like this. And if you are the president, this is a great legacy piece to start this. Of all the things that get done, this is a great legacy piece. to start your strategic plan, or refurbish it, or update it. But don't run back and say, strategy, we got to get going. Because that may scare the heck out of you. You will get to all of this. We just talked a little bit about SWOT. We talked about competitors. We talked about environmental scans. Like, you'll get to all of this eventually, but don't just throw it all up on the wall. Yeah, there's a digestion period, right? And as a leader of an organization, you need to find where your allies are and incrementally start to build consensus that way. Here's the critics, right? I think in my younger career, I used some of these, right? We don't have time for this. We've been doing this for 111 years. We know what we're doing. You've heard it, right? I have tried that before. It didn't work. These are all the negatives, right? Oh, we did that at work. You know, our company made me do it. We brought in this high-priced help, and they tried to tell us how to run our business. And then my boss said, don't worry about that report. We put it on the shelf and never did anything with it afterwards. Have you heard that one before? Yeah. So just remember, that first slide is about, you can really spook them, your team, and you're going to run into some of this. But if you stay with the script of consensus building, caring about the organization, setting aside about time as a leadership team to purposely work on where the organization is going, who could be offended by that? The whys. We've been talking a little bit about it. Creates that direction that you need, that you're all on the same page. It usually talks about goals. So if you're the leader, measurable goals, you can actually bring back to the meetings, where are we at with this? You know, Susan was going to do this and have it ready for September, and you can keep everybody on track, right? When you have limited resources, volunteers and staff, they should be asking you, like, where are we going? How are we getting there? And how are we going to do it with what resources? And it helps guide the day-to-day action, especially if you're staff, right? And the strat plan really helps with the script. So that's the part about externalizing yourself and being able to be on the same page as you talk about your organization. So I'm going to give you an example. Debbie, you're my friend. Debbie's going to ask me a question. The question is, Debbie, say, Max, how's things down at the exhibition grounds? In a minute, I'll ask you for that question. I have no strategy. The board's not talked about it. We're just winging it. Working hard every day, doing all the right things for the last 30 years together. We're just doing it. Ask me the question. Yeah, she's the mayor, right? So Debbie, thanks for asking. You know what? The fair was okay. We had a couple days of rain. You know, we always get rain. Our attendance was down a little bit. But it's getting harder and harder to find volunteers. And you know what? I had to take an extra couple days off from my holidays to help do some more work there. But you know what? Like always, the old fair gets her done. Right? That's one script. You guys used that one before? I have. Right? Debbie, ask me that question again. Thanks for asking, Debbie. The board has been going through the strategic planning exercise over the last year. We're trying to understand what our position is in creating value to the community. And we're really excited about what we're finding. And we have 3 goals. But we know that we are a place that gathers. We're in a place that we celebrate. And we're trying some new ideas. I'm making this up now. Youth Development Committee now there's a youth member sitting on our board. It's been really interesting to have that perspective as we think about where we're going as an organization. So it's been a great process. Thanks for asking me, Debbie. Did that sound different? Why? Because I'm reading off a script that you built together as a board. Fred, ask me the same question. Did you notice I didn't even talk about the fair? I talked about the exhibition, right? Fred, thanks for asking. He's now a counselor. It's interesting. We're testing some new ideas. right? So we've been stalling some of the traditional things we're doing because we've been talking together about the vision that we want for the organization. And the vision is this. And so we're testing some new ideas. And we're getting some good feedback back. And oh yeah, by the way, the fair went really, really good. And the reason why is because it's a significant contributor to our vision, and it's a significant contributor to our economics in the community. It's a place where families can gather, and it really helps us be a part of bringing value to the community. Thanks for asking, Fred. See the script? The board needs the same script. And the only way you get that same script is through a strat plan, in my opinion. This is important as a team, a leadership team. You need time together, not to put out fires and run events, and that stuff's table stakes, but you need time to do this, to reimagine your organization, or parts of it. You need to remind yourself of what the things that are going well. Not everything's bad. You've heard the words consensus. It's the way forward. It's a way to start articulating impacts and values. Ian Hill yesterday asked somebody, say, what is it you do? And somebody said, rodeo. And they started talking about the rodeo. That was brilliant. I was giggling in the back. Ian listed off 6 positive things the rodeo does for that without actually talking about the rodeo. Right? That's the script. That's the impacts and values. It's not that we put on a rodeo. It's what did the rodeo do for your stakeholders. And I think, I put this one at the bottom here, experimenting and testing. I think we're in a place now where we need to be more fluid, and I think we need to be able to test new ideas that we shouldn't be afraid to try some new ideas. Not things that put your $200,000 bank account on the line, but as the communities change, you might want to start testing stuff fast to see if there's some pickup, okay? So you can think about that in your planning. Again, those are tactics, those aren't goals. I'm interested in scenario planning because some people say, well, scenario planning is strat planning. I just threw this slide in there, and the reason I cited it because I don't know if it brings value to the discussion, but I'll try with you. In scenario planning, it's more like operations, right? And a lot of times in operations, you work within that historic expected view. And then you try to say, well, let's expand our thinking a bit in that scenario. It also thinks about multiple pictures. So, which is a lot of work. Okay, if we do this, what does that look like? Let's run through all the scenarios. Off-ramps, phasing, all those things. And then there's another picture. And that's a lot of work too. But what's missing through all of this is the vision, right? The vision's missing here. This is just taking scenarios and rolling them out, maybe the way you know them the best. So I don't want you getting, I guess my point here is I don't want you getting confused between strategy and vision building and scenario planning. Scenario planning could be an objective or something within your strat plan. Are we doing okay so far? Anybody have any questions?
I kind of have one question.
Yeah, please.
Like vision planning and things like that, and developing new ideas, testing these different ideas, and kind of getting into that community. You know, we talked a lot about there being a different stratification
Yep.
that people are looking for. So how long? I'm not maybe exact. I'm not saying like 3 months and 4 minutes. Like I'm not asking for an exact time, but when you're trying this new idea and you're kind of investing your time in that, how long before you say, hey, you know what? This isn't really doing what we needed to do, and let's move forward and try something else. Like how long do you sit on that idea before you move to scale? Is that kind of case by case?
I think it's case by case. It's about where you're at with an organization. And I'd actually expand that saying how long are you prepared to sit on the other stuff you've been doing for year after year after year after year, right? Well, yeah, exactly. Hopefully at the end of this, you're going to be able to change the dialogue about does it support vision? And if that vision is doing this for the community, then you get to look at all your product lineup, right? And no one likes to think about sunsetting or bringing new ideas on. But I think it's going to be, I believe it's going to be time now where you need to have some windows to try some new ideas. And you cannot be held ransom by the old ideas because they also cost money. But you don't get to have those discussions as a board until you got this figured out as a plan together, and then you can make some harder decisions together. Good ones, but harder. I have a friend. Can you believe it? And my friend said something really, really cool about a month ago. And then they kept going, and then I said, hey, say that again. I thought, that's really interesting. And then I was talking to them about a week later, and I raised it saying, say that thing again that you said last week. This is it, Mike. This is the unveiling, okay? Mike wanted me to tell me what it was last night. So I'm going to throw it up here. I want you to think about it. Until now, we have never had enough permission to reimagine ourselves. Until now, we have never had enough permission to reimagine ourselves. And I'm staying silent to let you think about that because I think it's brilliant. COVID has accelerated, in my opinion, has accelerated us to a place that was probably coming. Would anybody disagree with that? On certain fronts for organizations, not just ag societies, just organizations, and it's like, it's an accelerant. And how hard do you have to work when you want to bring a new idea forward? Can you see all the obstacles?
Well, especially if the new idea has something to do with changing or altering the main thing we're thinking about.
Correct.
The one said more about the rodeo. What if somebody said, oh, maybe we don't have to be about it? That's the thing.
Or be about the rodeo and, it's not like you have to, I know this is my organization, so we don't have to not do those other things that were before us, but we can still become more.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to limit ourselves to just these things.
Whatever your organizational obstacles were before, I believe that they've been minimized. Because COVID has forced a really openness that the world has changed, and nobody can deny that now.
And that's what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
That these past 2 years have been so different for all of us that it's less right to say, oh, we've always done it that way. Because all of a sudden, nobody's done it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So more open to new ideas.
That's the permission piece. Sorry.
The roaring 20s, so after a world crisis, a
Right.
world war, things went crazy. And after World War II, things went crazy.
Good analogy.
60s.
Yep.
So we're experiencing probably something that has happened in the past
Within our lifespan, right?
in our lifespan, is what we see. So, I mean, the world crisis at this scale, either you go through it and it's, see, one organization, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The largest refinery in North America started producing not diesel fuel and gasoline, but hand sanitizer. And I talked to my brother, and he said, you know what hand sanitizer sells for a barrel? It makes the refining of oil blackable. So they switched their blending factory or whatever they're at, and they are making hand sanitizer for the road. So you're in crisis, but somebody else sees that as opportunity. Now our ag society was lucky. We made more money through COVID than we did in any other year. Because Alberta Health came and took over our building and said, we're going to give you this much money for what? And we're like,
But when they do their strengths and weaknesses, now there might be a threat there, right? Because that's going to go away, right? So you're the benefit. I'm just having fun with you.
Yeah.
But that's a great example. Before I used to go, there's 3 of us that really like this idea of a daycare. But there's all these barriers, right? They've been minimized. The permission's there to have more open discussions around some things that are quite sensitive. There's always that white elephant maybe on the table. Maybe it's not as big anymore. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I was always told never have an indoor car show or car dealership come in and sell vehicles because you'll dirty the floor. I thought, geez, I can clean this whole floor in like 2 hours. What would that make me stop me doing that? So we approached a car dealership
Yep.
that said, you can have our egg society. We're not doing nothing this month or this week. We sell cars indoors in the wintertime. How many cars they sold in a week? 40. They never sold 40 cars in a week in the wintertime.
There you go.
And they pay us $500 a day to do it.
Mike, is it that good of a statement? Do you like it? Absolutely, I love it. Yeah, I like it a lot. Take it if you'd like to use it. But I thought I have a very smart friend. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves a bit. Who has a strat plan? Or a plan? Call it whatever you want. Just put your hands up. Right. Or you filled out a form, right, with boxes and submitted it. Call that your strat plan, right? Vince has one. He runs this is Vince Brennan here, runs all the ag societies in Ontario. So he has a strat plan for representing all of them. All 200 and 300 and something, right? In your strat plan, you start off, the fundamental is vision. And then if the people that are working with you haven't been through the process, they get mission and vision, purpose and values all screwed up. So just focus on vision with me today. Okay? And it's this. When you get out of bed, it's not about operating the ag society that you care about. It's about what inspires you and how will you be able to translate that into something that inspires others to come along with you. And it's a mid or a long-term picture. Where are you trying to go 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years from now? It's a vision. What might be some words that you would use in a vision statement?
If you've got an arena, for example, instead of saying our arena will,
Which is a lot of you people have that on your website saying, we're in the arena business as our vision.
instead maybe a world-class facility that can bring families together, stuff like that.
Right. So when I work with boards, and you should do this yourself today, is just find the key words that are attractive to you. Key words. Don't try to write it out. He said the words brings families together. Okay. They tried to.
We have to do something. We have to learn to become fluid and start facing changing. Be ready for it.
Mhm.
It's going to impact all of us.
Yep.
I live close enough to the city of Edmonton that the impact of that, it's going to be gone. No, we're perfect. Go where I went to for a little while, somebody else brings it back. After he's destroyed, we'll confusing fingers is going to do. The rodeo, fantastic rodeo. Can't show. Disappears. Big organizations like this can disappear. We can't too. We really have to work hard. But I think that's why we're all here.
You didn't throw a wrench into anything. You actually just reaffirmed everything we're talking about.
Exactly.
Right? So forget about big or small. The responsibility as leaders is to do exactly that. And you do those trends, what's happening, whether it be animal welfare or whether it be what your community needs through youth development, it shows up in your SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. These are long-term plans, okay? And if you're not careful with this stuff, then stuff can happen out there. So I'm not trying to fearmonger you. I'm just saying, as leaders of the organization, your primary job is to create vision. And then when you have time, you can go down and help the volunteers do amazing events.
On a positive note, what you said was
Yeah.
the threat analysis, that if these organizations like PETA or Leo, well, you need to identify it.
Or just urban people, the way they think about animal welfare. Period. It's a changing societal opinion. So there's vision, aspirational. It doesn't say how you do it. Are you trying to gather? Are you trying to showcase? Are you a celebration point? Are you the hub of? It's the place you're trying to march and claw towards.
I heard about one time if you flew over your organization in the
Sorry, I already chased you out.
if you flew over your organization in the helicopter and envision what you wanted to see it look like in 5 years, yeah, sort of part of what
Kind of like that. If you want to look at it from a physical perspective. But this lady here was talking about a mental state, a culture of listening, openness. Like, that's part of the planning process here. It's not just a piece of paper that says, we're going to do these things, these tactile things. Part of that strat plan can speak to actually the types of people you want driving your organization forward. It's a cultural piece, too. It's not just about, but to Fred's point, if you want to vision something, get in a helicopter, for sure. Good.
I've been exposed to it during the job that I have.
Yeah.
That's part of why I want to get involved and kind of be a more well-rounded person in our community. And
Sorry, guys.
I think one thing that we're talking about when it comes to mission and vision is that our society has a mission statement, and it's, support agriculture for everyone, and that sort of thing. And I think, there's a couple of us that have asked, we understand the mission statement, but what does that mean when we go out to the community and we want to share that mission statement? So somebody in our group is very, very passionate about the facilities that we have, what we can rent, what we can do. Whereas I'm a heart-driven why person, and that's what motivates me. So as much as I think a mission statement is extremely important, there's a dissection that I feel needs to happen there as well, so that we are sharing that consistent message instead of mission. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah, do you want my mic? You can keep going. You're doing great. Yeah, but she said some interesting things. She's new to the Ag Society. I think that's good. She's trying to bring past experiences, whether it be from other volunteering or business. She's trying to put some new lenses on, and the board should be excited that she's involved. And to her point, go ahead.
Well, just looking to find a way to get past those guys that I want to say Hakuna Matata. It's in the past. Put it behind you and look forward. And I think every ag society has that guy
Sure.
that it just like goes over and over the failures, and it's like, let's put that behind us.
Yeah, and you've never had as much permission as you do now to do that.
And that's the adaptability that we need to find now, because I think it was that way, because there's an insane amount of opportunity. It's just a matter of getting on the same page with each other and trying to, have that message along the way.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that mission is vision.
Yeah, you can post your mission, but it's not going to be what you plan around. This just says how you do it, right? It says how you operate. We're a volunteer-driven, not-for-profit, if you want. Doesn't mean you have any staff, just we're a volunteer-driven, not-for-profit. Or, who's your customer? We do this for, Beaumont probably does a lot of things more and more now for the city people. What is it you produce? You produce product. You're in competition. So do you do events? Do you rent your facilities? What is it? So that's what a mission does. This is how you go about doing your business. Flipping back, this is about where you're trying to go. Don't get them confused. And it doesn't have to be perfect and achievable. It's aspirational. I think I took a slide out, but if you looked at my land trust mission and vision that I helped them with 5, 6 years ago, it's pretty standard stuff around land conservation. Land conservation, conserve this, measurable impact of conservation lands in southern Alberta. Something like that, right? And how do you do it? Well, we look at it through natural, recreational, agricultural, historic, and all that, and this is how we do it. But after 2 years, I want to go back and look at all that stuff because I believe, this is just an example. We're not a land conservation company doing X. I believe we're in the experience business. We're protecting experiences for future generations to enjoy. And it just so happens that we can build experiences that no one else can build, and that's our differentiation point. There's a play on it, right? Even a little old land trust can say, got all these assets. What makes us different? I think we're an experience company. I just used the word company. I didn't not even use the word not-for-profit anymore. So I challenge you to think that way. Are we okay on mission and vision so far? Who has a vision statement handy? Nobody? Let's talk about what are some of the words that you might, just think about your ag society and let's just talk together. What are some of the words you might use from your ag society in your vision statement? Don't tell me how you do it, just keywords. Community builder. Hold on. Who said support agriculture? Is that a mission or a vision? And if you support agriculture, what happens when, what's your name? Sorry? Tara, fellow board member, says, I got this idea about daycares. I'm not trying to question you. I'm just saying.
I think that it can be both, though. I think that there's an opportunity to say, okay, the vision is you want to support agriculture, and that is part of your mission statement, how you word it in that vision, but you're starting from that vision is what the next. So I think that there's an opportunity for it to be worded differently, but the same idea is still there.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
So, no, you're okay. You're okay. I've run into that for years, support agriculture. Really? I'm actually one of the best advocates for agriculture. I love it. But who told us we had to support it? I actually always thought it was a position differentiation point for entertainment, for gathering, for social. I saw it as an opportunity to do something through a lens of agriculture, not support it.
There's a difference to that sense of, like, it's not so much holding it up and financially or whatever that looks like, it's more of a community.
Yeah, we're just feeling this out together. This exercise here takes 4 hours with your board. And there should be 20 or 30 key words up on that place that you're facilitating through. That's how you do it, maybe. See? And I'm not picking on you guys, but how do you do it? We do it in partnership with. But what are you doing? What are you doing it to? You might want to be the social premier, whatever, the social premier gathering place in your X. Or the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo says, our vision, youth development, period. The rest of it, it all goes to there. And they've called out youth as their vision. This is hard work because we're used to being able to work as programmers and operations managers. But when you start to say, why? What is it you're trying to do? Having something a little bit more high level, a little bit more generic is of value to you because the rest will fit in. And I'll show you in a bit. What are some other aspirational things? Community builder. What word do you like? Provide. Expand on that. Just talk out loud. So provide is a good word, but it might be mission. Community builder, that might be aspiration. Yeah, that's a good one. How would you blow that out a little bit more? So would you use that word connector in your 10-year vision? I'm okay if you did. I was just curious how you're thinking through that. Yeah?
We'd be happy to survive nowadays in our experience.
Yeah, so you don't lose that word because I'm going to show you where you might want to put it in your plan. And back to your point, proactive versus reactive, survive is reactive. It's not proactive. Well, thrive's a good word. Prosper. Maybe. Sustainability. Who was talking to me about sustainability?
You always want to, you were saying, what does McDonald's do? Sell more burgers in the world than anybody else. Or whatever it is right now. But you don't have to tell a 4-year-old kid when you drive by and sees the little yellow M that that's something wrong. And if somebody drives by today, goes for, oh, that's the one from the store. They have the
This is hard. We're not going to solve it today. It's just an example of if you don't get this solved, the next time you sit in front of a key stakeholder, they should ask you this question. Why is it you do what you do? Yeah, and that's what we're getting at here. We're going left to right in the strat plan. He said 2 words. You said fun, and you said experiences. Those are pretty healthy, generic, and you can bolt a lot of things to them as you go. Read it. Just read it to us. We won't. Go ahead. Somebody don't be shy. Just read your vision. Can I borrow that? Vision. St. Paul Agriculture Society is recognized as a great organization thriving in a strong agriculture-focused, supportive community. There's a bunch of good words in there, do you think? It didn't say how they do it. I'm not saying it's perfect. You'll never have a perfect vision, but if I sat in front of the council, I could use that. You guys feel good about that? Right? We quickly talk about how we do it. And that's okay at an ops level. But as a leadership level, and you're worrying about what the MD's up to and what's council up to and how do we send a message to them about the important things we're doing, you need to tell them about your vision and your goals. Where you're going. That's what I would do. I forgot to pick them up. That's too bad. They're in the office. Would you mind? Go down to the office, see if they're open, and ask them. They have about 50 of these printed off, Fred. Do you mind?
Yeah, no.
Thank you. Save my bacon. But this is what the AAAS and the government asked you guys to fill out part of your annual reporting and remember, you guys remember this? It's kind of like a quick little template and you have to scribble it in, and if you didn't have one, you kind of, there's a good word, you winged it, right? Well, I'm sorry. This has some structure related to the strat planning process, or your strat plan. It's vertical. And I usually like to try to build them out horizontal because most people read left to right. But just for familiarity, a strat plan has basic functions are vision, and then goals. In this case, it's a goal. And then a strategy or an objective, and tactics or what you call actions. That's how it works. Vision, goals, objectives, tactics. and I reiterate, just to get you thinking, running a facility might be a tactic, not an objective or a goal, and definitely might not be in your vision statement. Nothing wrong with your infrastructure, don't get me wrong. It's how you start to think about this. How'd you do? Awesome, thank you. So nervous about talking to you guys, I forgot to go to the office and get some paperwork. Just hand that down. You can get this on their website. You can go get. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. So this is a scribble sheet for you. I'm just going to wait for Mike to get through the room. This is the fundamentals of a strat plan. And I'm not trying to say that I want to work with your ag societies. I'm just saying that if you're going to do this well, filling this out, 6 to 8 hours with your board. Because you got to have those open discussions. You got to talk about the things that are showing up on the table, and then you got to prioritize it all. Is anybody scared about that? This page could take 6 to 8 hours with your board. What's that?
Our president is afraid of it.
Mm-hmm. Hold on one sec, Fred. I'm going to give the floor to Fred here so we can hear him. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, so when it comes to board governance training, board members often don't realize this is where the most important part of their job sits. And we're often not trained well enough here. And so sometimes bringing in someone like Tim or Max to help train here.
If you have somebody in your community if she's got great business acumen and can understand process and can stay neutral and can coach you guys through it, use them. You don't have to go pay for that. But this stuff is fundamental because Mike and I might not agree. And we're stuck on that vision. Because Mike's still thinking we're in infrastructure, and I'm still thinking we're in experience. And we got to sort that out. And then once you got the vision right, fairly close, we start thinking about the goals. And the goals are big buckets. Like, what are the headers? What are the headers that drive that vision? You're starting to get closer to it. You're starting to create the framework of how are you going to start to drive that vision forward. But at least what you're starting to do is build consensus. We've got consensus on the vision, right? Now we're going to talk about big bucket goals. How many people have read a strat plan that says this is kind of what we do, and there's 15 things they call them strategies. They're kind of vague. Run a facility. I don't know, help me make it up here. Sorry? Yeah, it's just a list of stuff, and then you don't, well, how do you do it? And that's what you sometimes, I don't know, maybe you go to somewhere else to work, and they hand it to you, and you go, Jesus, a lot of work here. I don't get it. What is it we do? Defining that vision is really, really key. The goals are important. Big buckets. I heard the word sustainability. I see lots of ag societies use the word sustainability, but not from a survival perspective. They're taking a proactive approach saying, of the 3 things that we have to focus on as big bucket goals, one is sustainability. What else would be a big bucket for you guys? What is feasible?
Whatever you plan on doing.
There's an interesting one. So So there's a key header, and I've seen people say growth, because in some organization that's taboo to talk about growth. At the risk of what? See, there we go again. At the risk, never had more permission than now to make change. So growth might be one. Sustainability for a bucket. What else? There's a lead head. Connects with the community, or the community. Connector. We're not even talking about the how yet, right? When you said connector, community connector, he didn't say how we're doing it yet. It's just a goal. And there's a few words there and say that we, as an organization, believe that we're positioned well to be the community connector. Done. Connector, a little bit of verbiage says what it is. 1, 2, 3. Here's our vision. What's another big bucket header that you might think about without getting operational yet?
That, I know it's like a pretty broad word, but, and I mean that in the sense of, I don't know if it's a big bucket goal, but like the willingness to be open to,
Well, don't stop. Don't stop. Where I would help you with that if I was with you, you might have a big bucket that says culture. Because you may believe that one of your best position points to drive that vision is you need to recreate a culture. And then the objectives, and then the tactics. Just throwing that out there as an idea. Right, but you need to figure out the priority of them, right? And some are subservient to the other. I've seen people use that as culture. I've seen people take culture to an objective, and I've seen them use the goal as organizational growth. And they feel that they're going to have to work on the culture before they get to growth. But they know they want to grow. You see? There's no wrong or right. You just start to organize it in a way. And then later on, I'll show you in a minute here. Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, what about capacity as well? Human resource capacity, financial capacity. So, all sorts of things. One thing to say is we want to do this, then that's what the capacity of our organization.
Yep. So you get to decide as an organization, is capacity a part of your sustainability? And maybe capacity is one of those objectives. And then to figure out the capacity, the tactic is to do a capacity analysis. Board skills, volunteer requirements, do we have enough of the right staff? What's the expertise in the organization? Those are all tactics with a report back or an update from Fred because he's the board member. I'm not trying to make this overly complicated. These are fundamentals. But if you can't imagine, if we can't get this sorted out together, you'll just run around like a fly swatter on the tactics because we know how to stay busy with tactics. I'm going to show you some examples. This is just from other ag societies, large and small. I just grabbed a few. One of them was, all they did was a fair. And they thought that one of the big bucket goals, is guest. Community engagement. Our organization. That's where culture could fit. Eventually. Programming. I think in that case it was a fair 10 days, and they could just focus on guest, programming, and something else. I'll give you some examples. Year round, a little bit more broader perspective.
Branding or marketing, is that something, like this was mentioned here, everyone knows that the Board of Arts is, but got five societies, then you guys wouldn't know what that branding is for you.
Right. So to Vince's question or comment is that if you've set a goal of something, usually right behind that objective is communication. And then, Vince, to your comment, a tactic is branding or marketing. But you don't lead with marketing because you don't know what it is you're trying to get to. Right? We quickly get to comm plans or communication strategies or flyers or advertising as goals and objectives, but they're just tactics. Sustainability is up there. Organizational evolution. That bucket there says a ton about you want to evolve, you just don't want to be static as an organization. And this one was really in the area of internalizing yourself as a board. So I'm roaring along in BC doing some strat planning, and someone says, Max, can you come here? I said, sure. And they're working on goals, and they sheepishly say, are we being silly? And I said, I don't know, what's up? And they said, well, we're doing the goals thing, it's making sense, got the vision, we're good. And there are all these, they've broken out. And they gave me the word vitality. And they weren't backing down, they said, that's a goal. That's an organizational discipline that they want that's going to drive the vision, and it's a big bucket goal, and they weren't backing down from it. And I said, good. I like the way you're thinking. And I throw that out as an example. It has nothing to do with support ag, run facilities. They wanted the word vitality. And so when they talk to council, they have their vision, and they say, how do you do it? Well, we think about it in 3 buckets. Organizational evolution, vitality, and something else. Sorry, Debbie.
Situation, mission, execution, command, control, communications, and you would apply all that process, which could take you, like you say, 4 hours, 6 hours, just for that single goal, and then you would come up with your strategic plan how to accomplish that. And if you didn't do all that preparation, for example, going in front of council to ask, you need to have preparation. You need to know what are the expected questions that are going to come to you as an ag society when you come in front of elected officials. So the goal was to get money, but without any planning or preparation, usually a lot of times we just shot down. But if you came with the answers prior to the, so it's important that if you have a goal, and it says what that one goal is, you almost need a plan to achieve that goal of sustainability.
Right.
Work on that separate from all the other ones.
Yep, and that's where we're going. That's a great analogy. And he said the goal was, when he went in front of council and sort of adding to it, was to get money. Actually, I think that's the outcome. The goal was to tell, share, allow council to understand the value you bring to your community and how you're going about it and what your thinking is. That's your goal. At the end, there's a little ask. The outcome is they give you money. We run in, I think, a lot of times asking for money, and we haven't even set the deck yet. And if you don't have a strat plan, 1 page, 5 pages, 10 pages, that key stakeholder, it's hard to find your script and your narrative. Or you and I can't get together because we're fumbling with our words right in front of council. Right. Right. But the questions will be easier to answer when you know. They're going to say, well, what's your role? What's your thoughts on community development? Well, you figure it out in your strat plan. It's in there somewhere. Can you believe it? Vitality. I said run with it. Because it's an expression of a culture. Right? I liked it. They went with it. And they rolled out their objectives and they rolled out their tactics for it. Here's some objectives that I've come across. I'm just grabbing these out of different strat plans. So, remember, goals and then objectives. I'm just going to flip ahead for a sec here. And then I'll come back. 3 primary goals, right? 3 buckets. I've just moved them off to the left-hand side. This is the way you should set it up when you're talking about your strat plan. Vision, 3 goals, no more than 3 goals. It makes you work really, really hard to figure out your 3 primary goals. And probably there's going to be 12 up on the board of keywords around buckets. Do you know how we solve that? Do you know how we make 12 become 3? At least my experience. How do you get from 12 to 3 as the priority and build consensus at the same time?
You throw it all up on a board and start to throw what similarities are often between 1, 3, or 4 of those, and kind of group them up.
One way to do it, yeah.
And then you can say, wow, 3 of these goals actually sound the same. If you write 1 goal out of those 3, and then
It's hard. Sometimes there's 20 of those buckets up there because you broke out and you were at it for 2 hours and you come back and you throw it all up. You know what I do? You know those little sticky dots? Each board member is an equal person. I give them each 3 dots. We're forcing consensus. We're forcing prioritization. And you'll quickly figure out that there's clusters starting to happen with 30, what's 12 times 3? 36? 36 dots going up. And all of a sudden there's starting to be some consensus because everybody is allowed to have their voice. And the dot is their voice. Because before, when you leave it open, people are stronger than others. People can sell ideas. People can, you know, all that openness you're asking about? I keep looking at you because you're looking for that culture you want. Dots are a great way to do it. Exactly. But you have an equal voice. Who am I to tell you how to think? So, a little off topic, but it's important to be able to find that. Consensus building. Three goals to support vision. 3 objectives to support each goal. So one of your primary goals might be sustainability. And then Fred says, well, what about maybe one of the objectives is capacity. Okay? And when you do this, they're still pretty high level. We haven't even talked about how to get to it. But if you want to be a community connector, is what you said, you might think it's important to communicate, right? So community connector is a primary goal, and objective is communication. We haven't even talked about what to do yet. I'm just saying communication is going to be important. I'll stop right there. Right there. 1 goal, 3 objectives, and some tactics. Before you know, you got 10 or 12 things to do. And can you imagine having a list of goals that are 15 long? You'd have 120 items to worry about every year from a strategic perspective. This is simple planning. No more does a board get to go off on these tangents about new ideas and different things. This drives focus. And the hard work's already been done. No more having debates anymore about, this new idea and, it's done. You've done the heavy lifting in the front. So that's the structure of it, left to right. And it's not just one words here. This gets a little bit more texty and explainable. And one thing I'll share with you is that whatever you do here, in here, this left, you put that on your website. You share it to council. Key stakeholders, sponsors, they say, what are you doing, where are you going? Right there. The how you're going to go about doing is internal. None of their business. Because that's where your intellectual property is. That's where you're talking about how you're going to go about doing it. But that's it. It's the book reading across. Objectives. Someone says what we offer was an objective. I found this interesting. Why us? They threw that out as an objective. That starts the whole discussion about saying, who are we, what do we want to do, and why do we want people What's our differentiation point? They were going to go through an exercise of tactics to figure out why us in their market. Start talking about infrastructure here, if you want. So if you had primary goal as programming, one of your objectives might be understanding your infrastructure. License to operate, see that one? Interesting, eh? So back to those that might have heavy animal components to their product in close proximity to major centers, you might want to think about your license to operate. It's not what you think, it's about what your consumer thinks about it, and I have a lot of history on this one. So what works well in that community might not work in your community. What's your license to operate? Isn't it an objective? In this situation, this fair was bringing so much traffic and density to the fairgrounds that they said year-round we have to work on our license to operate with our community. Because if we don't, they might start getting sick of all the things we've been doing for all these years because the community's changing, right? So they actually made an objective of saying license to operate, and tactics were working with the town, community meetings, door knocking, all those things were tactics. Board development, training, expertise. Prudence is a good one. You could throw that under sustainability if you wanted as an objective. What does that mean after you say prudence? You could do it by budget, forecasting, whatever those actions are to demonstrate to the board prudency. You might find this silly, but one of the objectives for One Ag Society was fanatics. That's a really good header. We all talk about how we care about the fair and what we remember as children, and we want to take our children to it and our grandchildren to it. And why? Because we loved it. They said, we want fanatics. And that's what they're going to work on. They're a standalone fair. And one of their objectives, once they started on the guest, an objective was fanatics. Interesting, eh? They wanted the people that bought their product to be just overwhelmed by it, consumed by it. I gotta have it. I can't wait to take my kids to it. All of the things that they remember of coming to the fair, and then they became adults and went on the board. They found a word which was fanatics, and they wanted to make more fanatics. And they might start with grade school or whatever, but at the end of the day, they're self-priming their customers for the future. What's that? Yeah. I'm only giving these examples of what you get into, and you find some pretty neat stuff as an organization. And you only find these gems and you get the structure sorted out when you can find time together just to talk about this. Where am I going? What time is it? Anybody got a time? 3:30? Thank you.
Levels of experience and things like that. Do you find that in your experience with smaller businesses that there's been more of a willingness to not stay in it just because you've already started? Like, so because sometimes it's kind of a half and half split. There's that struggle for those of us who want to try something new and not be, kick your hands up because we did it and it worked 15 years ago. And that's, you want to kindly say, 15 years later, maybe we try it again, but a different way. But going through this kind of an exercise, is that going to open that communication between those two?
Yep, and it allows the president to shut some of that dialogue down of naysayers, because it's actually the new ideas might be plugged into that culture that you're looking, or repositioning in market, or growth. So how could you shut someone down on the board if you said together that growth is a goal? Then you need to have discussions around new ideas. right? And so the president has to be the one that says, this is a goal. These are objectives, and we're supposed to explore new ideas. And we're supposed to create business plans on new ideas.
Because like you wanna have that honor and respect for what happened, and then recognizing that the foundation has been built is there. And I don't, this, I'll speak from personal experience. I don't wanna come into something like that and step all over what someone's built. I wanna respect the people that have built it. Yeah, I think you have to.
That's right.
But at the same time,
Sorry, Debbie.
you know, how do you kindly go about, how do you communicate thank you on a full platform, right? So, yeah.
If you don't do this, I don't know how you ever get to what you're worried about. This opens the door, doesn't solve it, but it's the job of a facilitator and eventually the president and the leadership group to actually keep this alive. But you can't coach if you don't know what you're coaching. If you don't have the script and the narrative, what is it you're coaching? How are you trying to keep the channels of communication wide open? So there's a really quick look at the process. And a reminder that your job as a board member, primary job for the future and the health of your organization is vision, objectives, and strat plan. I get it. There's lots of other things to do. So don't go out there going, holy moly, Max just piled on a whole bunch more stuff. You don't do this. But then what's your name over here, sir? Sorry? Ernie. Then Ernie says, what the heck happened? Proactive, reactive, which would you like to be? Never has there been a time where we could make decisions. So, if you do this well, you create consensus with the board. You can keep each other accountable to the mission, to where you're going. You have the narrative that you need in front of any stakeholder. You have the narrative that you need. And your narrative will be, here's what we do. This is why we're excited about it. Here's the value and impacts we bring to the community. And we've rehearsed our speech. Thoughts? What's reflections now? Like, holy moly, good. Let's just talk. We're all friends.
How do we get a copy of that PowerPoint stuff? Because do you remember all them words that were on there? They're awesome, and I'll forget half of them or most of them before I walk upstairs.
Good idea. Which words did you like? Just the whole thing?
The whole thing, all the wording in that, yeah, because now I'm understanding kind of what you're saying, but without having that words, then I'll get it all muddled.
Come see me after. I can help you with that. Yeah. No. As you can see, I've seen this as a critical part of the work that I've got to do, the privilege that I've got to do. So I'm a big advocate for it. I get it. For you guys, there's a lot going on in your worlds. So take this. Think about how you can sort of customize it when you get back. Process it for a while. Find some friends on the board and start talking about this is your primary function. Get the meetings done. I get it. There's lots of things you got to do and you got to worry about your exercise. That's table stakes. Your job, get it done. Your primary job is this. And when you do this well, your organization will be good steed to give it to someone else later down the road. Yeah, they used to say 5-year plans would sit on, like in a Porter model, they'd be good for 5 years. What happens in what's missing here is on the right side of the tactics, there's actually year 1, year 2, year 3. So as you knock off 1, you're going to year 2, and then you have a quick jump in, you actually build on the next year. Right? It's a building phase, but I can't imagine you can sit on a strat, predict exactly everything you need to do for 5 years. I think it's 3 years, Vince. Yeah, it's alive. Yeah.
Right now, I'm thinking
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of little things, just silly little ideas, right? Your vision, once you got it, if you have it, put it on your board meeting agenda every day, every meeting, just the little things. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys got to run, go. Just, but ones that want to stay, I'm going nowhere.
The most common things that I've heard most associations talk about is their board's inability to accept change, right? And I think it's a hard sell, right? One of the things that we've noticed is, because of COVID, the events that we've been allowed to still put on are different now.
Yeah.
Due to those restrictions, there's masking, there's social distancing, maybe group size limits, on and on.
Thank you.
Anyway, the events that we have been able to put on are different than, the board has allowed, the events that we've put on for the last 3 years. And you know what? The good news is, the people that have come to these events, or the competitors, bull riding or chuck wagon racing, whatever, any of these guys that have come to the events, say, you know what, this is different than I'm not used to doing. This is what, thank you for putting it on.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually different than it's been before.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets a good pop to it.
Yep.
So what that's taught us is change is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Change is opportunity, and people accept it.
You gotta meet people because you don't know how to explain, like my racing rotation, all of a sudden the newer people that basically never even walked through the gate are coming to must-play change or something, and it's a new perspective for stuff, and they're like, oh, I've heard about this, and this is kinda cool. And those are the people that my mentor, so it's kind of interesting to see the shift in the dynamics of people that come.
Yeah. To go back to your boards, and these guys that are, set in their ways, show them that change is okay.
That goes back to your statement, right?
It's been a positive experience on our side.
Good.
I hate to be the devil's advocate.
Okay, so hold on a sec before Ernie goes. If it goes sideways now, I'm done at 3:30. So we'll see where this goes now. Ernie, be kind to us, okay?
Their advantage to show them change that maybe they in past 5 years we haven't come because it's been the same. We can kind of,
I'm not talking customers, I'm saying go back and show your board
Yeah.
that doesn't want to change things instead of the board of customers come to the event without having to change things.
Anyways, thank you. This is a passionate topic for me. I'd encourage you to pursue, learn. You're not getting this solved in 2 months, 3 months. If you decide to make this is going to take you a year, sort it out. Yeah, and I'm around the rest of the day and night. If you want to chat more, just come by me. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the help, guys. Oh, thank you. fun, and we could talk about this later, is because obviously you're going to use words. Map that.
Yeah.
You can get that map.
And that's,
When you did that, when you built that, why did you build that? That's the thing that I, not before.
yeah.
You're building that to achieve that vision. You're building that vision.
That's, yeah, because when you put that, that's how under our bounds, there's no reason to do that.
So when you figured out that vision, then you get, okay, you figure out these goals. And like when I say goal, it's this, and it's got a text or something.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there, what was put back before the election, next to the municipality, so we can support that goal. Fritz Kraftwerk's doing all kinds of other good stuff too. I had him on before, and I showed it on TV.
Yeah. Tell us.
Over the air.
Okay, we got Fritz.
thanks for your help today.
Yeah, did it go okay?
That's good. Well, I think it went good.
Good. Well, that's what's matters.